Hello and welcome back to Macro Waves for another video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the Bitcoin price and potentially a Black Swan event taking place on June 26. So hold tight and let's get started. So the first thing I'd like to cover in this video, just to give you a brief overview, I'm putting a few ideas together here on the table of what I'm seeing in the macroeconomic side, in the charts, what I'm seeing in the Wyckoff accumulation or distribution, and also what I'm seeing in the astrology in terms of the broader Uranus Square Mars, but also the Uranus Square Mars that I'm seeing setting up in the event chart for the 26th of June 2021. So let me just step back a little bit before going into more detail, and I am attempting to pull this all together to give you the best viewpoint as I can and try to explain this in the best possible way. If you do want more information on the update I did on the Bitcoin price, then do check out my video from yesterday, Friday the 25th. The link is popping up just above here. But just to update you on the lunar phases, the moon phases, we did have the full moon be printed on the chart here. I'm on the Bitstamp chart. That took place on the 24th, and that was indeed a low. As you remember, when there's a full moon, there's a low. When there's a new moon, there's generally a high. But yesterday, Friday, during the day of trading, we did have quite a lot of weakness. As you can see, this is on the daily chart. There's weakness. Very easy to see that. Okay. But from a trading point of view, from a kind of technical analysis point of view, and from a, if you're placing a trade, we really do need to wait for a weekly close. So the weekly close will happen on Sunday in about 48 hours from now. So really the weekly close can go anywhere. Really, it can go to the downside or it can go to the upside. We just don't know. But based on my previous analysis, we do have more risk to the downside. So that is what I'm looking at now. And if I move into the 4-hourly chart, just to show you what I'm seeing, is if I grab out my fibs here, okay, and I do a fib retracement like this, oops, to the low here, the recent low. If I do a projection downwards, right, I am getting these kind of numbers. I'm getting the 1.618 fib, I'm getting at 28.5, and the 2.618 fib extension, 24.3, and there's one more, goes all the way down to 20K, the 3.6 fib extension. So that's the downside risk. And now that's just one side of it, okay? And considering the weekly close. Let's go back to the Wyckoff accumulation, which a lot of people are saying, wow, the Bitcoin price is mapping exactly to the Wyckoff accumulation schematic. And as you know, or as you may not know, every market is manipulated, especially the Bitcoin market. The Bitcoin market is definitely manipulated to the nth degree. So a lot of people are saying, the whales are really playing with us. They're really messing with us. As you can see on the right here, I have the accumulation schematic number 1. A lot of people are saying we're in phase C, where you had the spring here. And the question is, we've had the spring down to 28.6 or 28.5. Are we now at the test? So is it now just going up and up and up and up and up from here? And it's the final hurrah for the Bitcoin price, and it's a huge recovery that's just about to happen, right? So in other words, are the manipulators who are possibly using the accumulation schematic, are they going to follow through with this, as it's mapping so closely to what's happened ever since May 18th or so? Or are we going to see a catastrophic sudden shock or move down to 20K? That's the big question. And that was also something I discussed in my video yesterday, that I am more of the opinion that we are not at all in the accumulation phase C, that actually, in fact, we are still, that we still have yet to start phase A of the accumulation, and we are looking more like that we are in the phase E, or heading, just about to head into the phase E, which is the very end of the distribution schematic, and that we have more downside to go before we head into phase A of the accumulation phase. So that's just where we are now, and the weekly close is really the one to watch. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the chart. So what I did for today is the 26th of June. Today I saw something in the chart. Now, I'm not a professional astrologer, so I'm just looking at the very basic things here. But what I did was I drew up a chart for Saturday, June 26th. I chose America as the USA as the country, and I chose Washington, D.C. as the actual location. Why did I do that? Because, that's the kind of seat of power. We have the Senate there, Washington, D.C., and I thought, okay, America, seat of power, most powerful nation, and I drew up a chart for the day. And the biggest thing I just jumped out to me was the square here. We have Uranus and we have Mars over here. And we have this 90-degree going on. This is called a square in astrology, and it's in Taurus. So I'm not sure exactly what it means in Taurus, but this square is very, very significant. And going back to what I talked about in much greater detail in my previous video yesterday, which I focused more on the Saturn square Uranus transit and the Mars. I talked more broadly about the Saturn squares in 2021. But as you can see here, more broadly, on July 3rd, we have a Mars square Uranus setting up. And that's quite important. That's significant. That's a significant event. Actually, both of these events are significant on July 1st and the 3rd of July. But that's in July. I'm talking about today. Today is June the 26th. It's a Saturday. And that's what I want to focus on in this video. And so this is what I'm seeing for today. This square with Uranus. Now what is Uranus? Let me just go back over here. Let's just go over here onto the left here. So Uranus in astrology is known as the awakener, since its aspects and transits bring sudden changes and shocks. So going back to the Bitcoin price, are we going to see a shock and deviation, or a breaking of the model, i.e. the Wyckoff accumulation, as I talked about here? Is this model going to break? That's my big question. Is that what the manipulators are trying to play us? They're saying like, well, let's get everybody to believe that a Wyckoff accumulation is happening, but now we're just going to break it with some event. Yeah. So are we going to see this shock and change, which is Uranus, which I can see in the chart, come into the picture? Then we have Mars, on the other hand. Mars was the god of war in Roman mythology. The god of war also refers to the planet that we know as Mars. In astrology, the energy of Mars is the energy of the warrior and the energy of action and courage. Whenever Mars energy is present, it helps us to take action. So we have a lot of activity lining up, right? So there's a lot of questions in my mind related to this chart. What's going on here? So in terms of the Bitcoin price, how much of this Wyckoff accumulation can we take? We must take it with a huge grain of salt, especially considering we just had a full moon. We still have to have the weekly close set up, okay? And we have to expect that a sudden shock can happen to the downside. And we have to be ready for that, okay? So I'm very unclear about I'm really not so confident about something like this happening at this juncture. Okay. And especially what kind of black swan event could happen? Well, if you're in crypto, if you know about Tether as the stable coin, it's a very dubious setup. We don't really know. They have provided their audits, but it really is a joke, their audits. How Tether is a stable coin that's kind of holding up, it's kind of pumping up the whole crypto market. And so there's a lot of questions around how are they backing up all this Tether printed stablecoin currency, right? And if this falls, how much impact would this have on crypto in general? So this is a really interesting article. I recommend you check it out. But let's go back to some of the positive aspects that we have to look at with the Uranus Square Mars on a more broader level, but also more importantly on what's happening today, what's setting up today for the Uranus Square Mars for the USA chart, the Washington, D.C. chart. So on a positive level, you're developing new cutting edge engineering models against all odds. These are positive things. Positive startups getting going despite initial opposition. Now, I do see some things mapping here more closely in terms of innovation and change and crypto companies and tech in general helping to drive innovation. So that is happening these days. Your willpower takes you through any situation like business or sports against all others. So there are a lot of people winning out there, whether you believe it or not. Another positive aspect here, friction builds up until you act in a business that needs change. So a lot of change happening. That makes sense to me. On the negative side, accidents and hurt if in military or police force. So remember, the Mars square Uranus is about a lot of aggression and violence and shocks. So that caught my attention. Also, this one, sudden stop and start energy results in injuries like burns or cuts. So, sudden movements back and forth, these things, setbacks. This is also happening around this time. And Astrology, which is a website and a YouTuber, I'm really a big fan of hers. Uranus and Mars together in a square, it means friction and result in explosions and even fights. So these are some of the things that we are coming up for us right now. And the transit itself, it gives us a strong urge, to break free from restriction and rebel against authority. A tendency to act rashly without regard for the consequences can lead to great disruption or conflict in our lives. Awareness of this dynamic energy can instead lead to inventive and creative breakthroughs on the positive side, so that's good, and a reinvigorated personal life. So these are just things to look out for. Again, I'm on Astrology King. This is actually for the July 3rd, but I'm also looking at it on this chart in particular. So let me know what your thoughts here. Do you have any other interesting things that you can see happening on this chart here? If you're a professional astrologer, I'd love to hear what you can see here. But I'm seeing this square play out. And on the Wyckoff, we'll have to see how this plays out today. But I am very, very wary. I mean, even looking on the hourly chart here, if you know about trading, just now, it is now we're on the second hourly. We had this on the hourly chart. I'm not a short-term trader at all, but we do have this kind of thing setting up, this kind of move to the downside. So let me know what your thoughts are. This was my video. I hope it was interesting. And please like and subscribe to this channel, Macro Waves. I'd love to hear your feedback and thoughts on this kind of analysis. If you like this kind of content, I've got lots and lots of ideas to combine astrology with what I'm seeing in the markets, all kinds of markets. So thanks very much and have a great day and see you in the next one. Bye for now.